guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a massive haul video. The last one that I did was in September last year, I think. So I've ended up with quite a few new books since then. I'd say it's about a half and half split between books that I've bought new, either from Waterstones or mostly from supermarkets, because those like Tesco and Asda book deals always reel me in. And then there's also quite a lot of books that I found secondhand as well. So let's just start getting through them all. So the first stack of books that I've bought are ones that I've already read before. The first book on this stack is Expectation by Anna Hope. And I found this one in a charity shop for £2 and I really like the cover of it, and it was one of my 5-star reads of either last year or the year before. I can't exactly remember now. This is the story of 3 female best friends, and they go to university together and they've got all these hopes and ambitions, and then it also follows them 10 years on from that, where they're all in very different situations to what they imagined themselves would be in, and we just follow the lives of these 3 women and how their friendship has these highs and lows, how they're coming to terms with the situation that they're in their life, as mothers, in their career, with their partners, all that sort of thing. And I just really love this book. I love the way it was written. I was really invested and I just wanted to keep reading this book. So I'm really glad that I can now add this to my shelf, because I really want a bookcase just full of 4 and 5-star reads of books that I've really loved, whether I read them on my Kindle or from the library or whatever. So I think I read this one on my phone first time round, which is not like me at all. I think I borrowed it from the library as an ebook and I couldn't figure out how to put it on my Kindle. So I'm very pleased to have found this in one of my local charity shops. The next book I bought secondhand on eBay, and that was Night Shift by Kier Ladner. I read this book last year, mainly on audio and also on my phone again. I swear I've read like 3 books in my life on my phone, and 2 of them just happen to be the ones I've just mentioned. So initially I gave this book 4 stars, but because I'm so far behind on my Goodreads reviews, I was doing them yesterday and I realised that this book is actually more of a 5-star for me, so I've since upped it. This book is about a woman called Meg who's in her early 20s. It's set in the late 90s and she basically becomes obsessed with one of her female colleagues, and she doesn't know whether it's because she fancies her or she fancies women in general, or if she just wants to be this colleague. So we follow Meg as she goes through that sort of identity crisis and then the effects that has on her heterosexual relationship with her boyfriend. Meg becomes so obsessed with this co-worker that she basically switches her entire life around and decides to work the night shift in the hope that she can work with this colleague. Apart from already loving this book, this cover is just amazing and I love having this on my shelf. I just love the overall vibe of this book. It was so addictive. I read it all basically in one night. I think I need to start reading more fiction centered around women and their friendships, because these 2 are quite similar and I really love both of them enough to like buy them physically after I've already read them. Yeah, maybe I should look into that. But yeah, these 2 can now sit together as little contemporary books on my shelf. The next 2 that I bought are thrillers that I've already read. First off, I bought Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I found this in a charity shop again for like £2, and I thought I already had this book, but as I was categorising everything on Goodreads and saying which books I owned, I realised that I only have Gone Girl and Dark Places. And although I love this one as well, for some reason I just didn't have it. I think this one is my least favourite of the 3. I'm just gonna get this sticker off. But this one is about a woman who, I think she's a journalist, and she goes back to her hometown because 2 little girls have disappeared and she's going to be helping to investigate or cover this story. And she's obviously got a very toxic relationship with her family, and it's a lot about her issues with herself and things like that. So this is still a really good one, and I'm really glad to now have the full little collection that I love. The other one I bought was I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh. I read this years ago on my Kindle and I've banged on about it quite a few times actually. This is one of my favourite mystery thriller books ever. I found this one for £1 actually in the charity shop. Just took the sticker off. But this has one of the best twists I've ever read in my life, and I was just obsessed with this book when I read it. It's one that I read quite early on when I started reading again, but this is about a woman called Jenna who is involved in a tragic accident, and then she kind of moves away because she's haunted by her fears and her grief about this accident. But then the past starts to catch up to her and someone ends up finding her in this remote location. This is one of my most beloved thrillers ever, so I'm really glad to now have this to go on my shelf, because I would definitely recommend this to a lot of people. Like I say, it has such a good twist and it completely threw me, so I would really recommend this one. And then the last one that I bought that I've already read is Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. For some reason I didn't have this book. I think I must have lent it out to somebody and not got it back. So for the longest time, I think you might have been able to see in the background of my videos that I have Catching Fire and Mockingjay and no Hunger Games. So I found this one in a charity shop, again for £1. This is a series that I definitely will reread someday. I think I've read it twice already. I'm obsessed with the films, obsessed with the books. This is one of the first book series that got me into reading like properly as a teenager. So now this can go nicely with the rest of the series and finally be a complete collection. The next two books that I have are the only two actually that I've bought and read since I bought them. So the first one that I have is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I love this book. I did loads and loads of little tabs in it, and I have already mentioned this on my channel quite a few times. I think I mentioned it in my favourites video and also in one of my wrap-ups, so I will link those down below so you can get like the full review of this book. But I read this during September and October because it was that like dark academia season. But yeah, I will link those reviews down below so you can have a look, just so I'm not repeating myself. And the other one that I've just finished reading actually is one that Mac got me for my birthday, and this is The House Guest and Other Stories by Amparo de Villo. This author is Mexican, so this copy was translated by Audrey Harris and Matthew Gleason. I've recently just finished this book, so I will be mentioning it in my January or February wrap-up video. I can't remember if I finished it on the 1st or just before. This is a collection of short horror stories that all have a very creepy and eerie undertone. A lot of them are quite feminist in nature, a lot of them have female protagonists. And as a whole, I really enjoyed this book. I think I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5, just because there were a few stories that I really liked towards the beginning, and then the rest of them I thought were just good. So I think 3.5/4 stars is probably where I'm going to land with this one. But I'm going to go into a bit more detail about each story in my wrap-up video, so hopefully that will be up very soon. And while we're on the subject of books that my boyfriend has bought me, I'll just mention the other one that he got me for my birthday as well, and that is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is such a gorgeous book. Like, look at that foiling on the side, it's just lovely. This is one that I pointed out to him when we were on holiday, and he, bless him, remembered the book. I'm really excited to read this one. I think I'm going to read it very soon. So this book is about a coffee shop where you can go back in time, and I don't think you can make any lasting changes, but when you're back in the past you have to finish your cup of coffee before it gets cold. So I guess you're only there for a very short period of time, and I think this is meant to be a very emotional story about people going back into the past and reconnecting with people that they've lost and things like that. So I feel like I'm really going to love this book, and it's so beautiful, so I'm really glad that he got this for me. And then the next one that I was gifted on my birthday was off my sister, and it's I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Everyone has been banging on about this book all throughout the last half of last year. I've actually reserved the audio from my library, and I think I'll be getting it in March, so I'm saving this book for then so that I can completely engross myself in it and read it and listen to her voice at the same time. But obviously this is Jeanette McCurdy's autobiography, which tells the story of her upbringing and the abuse that she suffered as a child at the hands of her mum, who was apparently very controlling. I didn't actually watch Nickelodeon very much growing up, I was much more of a Disney Channel girl, but I am familiar with the show iCarly, so I'm really excited to finally read this one, especially after everyone's been raving about this book and giving it 5 stars. And then the last book that I have that was kind of gifted to me, I think I got this quite early on last year, and I forgot to mention it in my whole video, but this is A Man Called Ove, or is it Ovie? I'm not sure, by Frederick Backman. And somebody at work gave me this book because I said that I liked reading from the perspective of an older person. So she gave me this one quite a while ago now, and I've still not read it. But my best friend and my dad have recently read this book, and they both gave it like 5 stars, said it was amazing. So I think I'm putting this off because I know it's going to be emotional and I know I'm going to cry, which isn't a bad thing, but I just want to be in the right mood to cry at a book. I'm not entirely sure what this book is about, other than he's quite grumpy, and it's meant to be very heartwarming and uplifting, so I will definitely be reading this one very soon, next time I want a big cry. The next stack that I have here are all books that I found in charity shops that I've not read yet. So I'll give you a little glimpse here before I go through them. There's absolutely no better feeling in life than going into a charity shop and finding a book that you really want to read. It's literally one of my favourite things to do on a day off, is just to wander around charity shops for a few hours and come out with some great books. The first one that I have here is The Poppy Walk by R.F. Kuang. I've heard amazing things about this book, and obviously she wrote Babel, which everyone is raving about. This is an adult fantasy which apparently has quite a morally grey protagonist, and I'm so excited for that because I love morally grey protagonists. I think I'm quite fussy with what I like in adult fantasy, so I'm very like particular about what I want to read, but this one sounds incredible. And I think I'm going to be reading this as like a buddy read with my bestie because she's also got this book, but it is a bit of a chunky one. It's about 550 pages and I think it's a trilogy as well. So it feels like quite an investment to start this one at the minute. But yeah, I will definitely be reading it with her, I think, just to like motivate me through it. So hopefully that will be happening very soon. It might be our next pick actually. We've just finished reading Frankenstein, so hopefully this one will be next. The next book that I've got is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This, I can't actually remember what this book is about. So it's about a woman called Casey who's recently out of a devastating love affair and mourning the death of her beloved mum. She's been writing a novel for 6 years and it's not going anywhere. She's got loads of debt. She's 31, all her friends are getting married and having kids. And then she meets this guy called Silas, and then she meets another guy called Oscar. She finds herself at the point of a love triangle torn between two very different relationships that promise two very different futures. I'm not really much of a romance reader, but I'm hoping that this will have a lot of contemporary fiction vibes in there and a lot about self-discovery. I also really like reading about women's perspectives in like their 20s and their 30s, because it all feels very relatable, and when you start seeing everyone sort of buying houses and making loads of money around you, you do feel like you're not achieving what you thought you would. So I just find these kind of books really relatable at the minute. So hopefully I will love this one as much as I liked Expectation and Night Shift, because I feel like it's going to have those similar identity crisis, growing up, also with a bit of romance sprinkled in there. So hopefully I don't find that too cringy. The next one that I have is The Appeal by Janice Hallett. This book sounds so fun. It's basically like a cozy mystery where you are a lawyer or a trainee lawyer, and you've basically got all these like case files presented to you, which are full of emails and text messages and like sort of a mixed media type book, I think. So it's set in this small village and someone has been murdered. They've already been charged and imprisoned for it, but this lawyer thinks that the person is innocent. So your job is basically to read all this book and try and figure out who really did it. I feel like I'm going to fly through it because I'm going to be so invested in all of these emails and texts and all the secrets coming out from this small town. I just really can't wait to get fully immersed into this and feel like an amateur detective solving crimes. The next book that I bought is Eileen by Atessa Moshfegh. I was so excited when I found this in a charity shop. Admittedly, I don't like this cover as much as I like the other cover, so if I end up loving this book, I might give it back to a charity shop and then buy the other one. I don't actually know what this book is about, other than it's got lots of hype around it. It's about this woman called Eileen who is trapped between caring for her alcoholic father and her job as a secretary at the boys' prison. When the beautiful, charismatic Rebecca St. John arrives on the scene, Eileen is enchanted, but soon Eileen's affections for Rebecca will pull her into a crime that far surpasses even her own wild imagination. So this sounds like it's going to be another obsession type book about some kind of unhinged woman who gets way too wrapped up into another person. I've heard really good things about Atessa Moshfegh. I did read Lapvona last year and I didn't really like it, so this is going to be like her last chance, I think. But I'm hoping that I'll really like this one. Yeah, I should definitely read this very soon because of the snowy cover and about it being set near Christmas. Or maybe I'll end up reading it this Christmas, I don't know, we'll see. The last 4 books on this stack are all ones that I found in Chester. I actually did a little day trip out to Chester, went through all the charity shops and found quite a few books. The first one that I have here, I'm just removing the sticker, is Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. This book cost me £4. I'm sorry, what? Charity shops do not normally sell books for that much money. They're usually like £2 max, £2.50 if it's like a hardback. It is half the price of what it was meant to be, and it is going to charity, so that's fine, but it's kind of pricey for a charity shop. This one I've been wanting to read for a long time because it's been compared to Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter, which is like my favourite book of all time. This book is about a girl called Gio whose first love was revealed as a terrifying serial killer, but he escaped custody and went on the run. Now bodies have started turning up, killed in exactly the same way as before. The message is clear, he's making his way to her one murder at a time. I have quite high expectations for this book, so I think that's why I've been putting it off for a long time. I swear it's been on my TBR for like 2 years now, but I'm really glad that I managed to find it in this little charity shop. Apparently it's very dark, very gritty and gory, and I really can't wait to get to this, especially if it's going to be half as good as Karen Slaughter. Another one that I found, I think this cost me £1, is Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. This is a coming-of-age story following this girl called Betty Carpenter. Betty is resilient, she has a curiosity about the natural world, fierce love for her sisters and her father, but there's a lot of horror in her family's past and present, and she starts to write as an escape. I've not heard a ton of things about this book, but it sounds really interesting, and I really like reading books that are very descriptive about the natural world, so hopefully there's a lot of that in there. But also, just a really sad coming of age story is something that I am a sucker for when I'm in the mood for it. And I do love this cover as well, so I'm glad that I managed to find this one. I'm not sure when I'll read this because I feel like it's going to be quite a heavy one, so I'll definitely need to be prepared for that. The next book that I found is this heifer of a book, which is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I found this one for £2, so let's just get rid of that sticker. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to read this book because it doesn't sound like it's going to be my cup of tea. It's about this boy who miraculously survives a catastrophe that otherwise tears his life apart. Alone and rudderless in New York, he's taken in by the family of a wealthy friend, and I think he stole a piece of art at some point, and then it draws him into the criminal underworld. So from just reading the blurb, this doesn't sound like it's my cup of tea, but it's Donna Tartt, and I loved her writing in The Secret History, so I'm willing to give this one a go. I found this and I just couldn't leave it behind, so I then added it to my Goodreads TBR and brought this home with me. This is a hefty book. Oh my god, this is 860 pages. How the hell am I even going to read that? Maybe I'll have to get the audiobook to help me with this because I have a feeling it's going to take me like 2 months to read this book. But if it's going to be as good as The Secret History, then I will put in the effort. Let me know in the comments if you've read either this one or The Secret History, and let me know your thoughts, because am I going to have too high expectations going into it? And the last one that I found in a charity shop was again £2, and it was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St John Mandel. This is a really cute little hardback edition. I don't normally like hardbacks very much, but I couldn't really walk away from it at that price. This book is actually much shorter than I thought it would be. It's only about 250 pages, and it also has quite big writing as well. For some reason I thought this one was like a massive book. I believe that this is a very ambitious book set across different periods of time, and it's primarily sci-fi, but it seems to have a bit of historical fiction in there. It talks about the possibility of parallel worlds, and it sounds like it might be quite a confusing book. But I think I might start with Station 11, which I've had on my shelf for a really long time, and then pick this one up after that. So I will add this to my little stack of hardbacks downstairs. But I've heard such good things about her as a writer. I do feel like I'll prefer Station 11 just because of that apocalyptic scenario, which I really love. But I'm really excited for both of those actually. And then the last stack that I have here is all new books, either bought from Waterstones or from supermarkets. Oops. I'll start with the ones that I've picked up from Waterstones. The first one that I have here is Reprieve by James Han Matson. Let's just get that sticker off. I think I bought this one as an add-on because Mac was going to buy one that was on buy one get one half price, so I kind of bought this one on a bit of an impulse, but I think this cover is kind of ugly, especially when you compare it to the other cover, so this is a slight regret. But I'm still looking forward to reading it. This is apparently a horror novel, but it's way more quiet and subdued, and it's got a lot of social commentary in there, so I think I'm really going to love this book. I think a lot of people haven't liked it because it kind of hypes it up that it's going to be really thrilling and exciting, and then it turns out that it isn't like that. So at the back of the book it says that there's 4 people who teamed up to compete in a full contact escape room. Hold your nerve through 6 terrifying challenges, collect all the red envelopes and win a huge cash prize. But the real horror is unfolding outside of the game in a series of deceits and misunderstandings. And by the end of the night, one of the contestants will be dead. So it sounds like it's going to be really high stakes, and I think from reviews that I've read, there's a lot about the backstories of the contestants, and it's more of a literary thriller, which I think I'll really like. It also has a stamp from Rumen Alam on the back, who's the author of Leave the World Behind. So I think this will be really up my street. And because I'm going into this with slightly different expectations to what you would expect going off the back, I think I'll really enjoy this one, and I think it might be one that I'll end up highlighting quite a lot. And then the other 3 that I picked up, I think in the same trip, are 3 very cute little short ones, and they all look very nice together. We love pastel colours. The first one that I picked up was Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I read Earthlings this summer and absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and this one is so teeny tiny and was also really hyped, and this lilac cover I could not resist. So I'm hoping that I will love this one just as much. I didn't even say what this book is about. This is about a woman who's 36 years old, she's never had a boyfriend, and she's worked in the same convenience store for 18 years. Her parents wish she'd get a better job, her friends wonder why she won't get married. but she knows what makes her happy and she's not going to let anyone take her away from her convenience store. This sounds like it'll have a lot of the same themes that were in Earthlings, to do with family and societal pressures, and I'm hoping it has some satirical humour in there. The next one that I have is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This has been on my TBR for ages. So this is about a guy called David, who is a young American in 1950s Paris who's waiting for his fiancée to return from a trip to Spain. But then he meets Giovanni, a handsome Italian barman, and the two are drawn into an intense affair. So this is described as a fated love triangle which has become a landmark in gay writing, but its appeal is much broader. James Baldwin caused outrage as a black author writing about white homosexuals, yet for him the issues of race, sexuality and personal freedom were eternally intertwined. So this book was published in the 1950s and caused quite a lot of controversy at the time, and I think it's going to be pretty sad and emotional, but also a really important book to read, so I'm very excited for that. And then the last one that I have here is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. Sorry about my pronunciation. So this is a semi-autobiographical book which is probably going to be very depressing and sad because I know that this author had quite a tragic life, but this book is described as a powerful exploration of an individual's alienation from society, and I seem to really enjoy books written by Japanese authors, so hopefully this will be one that I really enjoy, though I do think it's going to have quite a lot of trigger warnings and a lot of upsetting content in there. The next one that I have here is The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. This, I bought it from Asda and I thought this was a sticker, Asda Tickled Pink, but it's not. So this is about a society where they have a school where they send mothers who they deem not to be fit mothers. So this book is about a woman called Frida who has a young child called Harriet, but the neighbours hear Harriet crying one day and the state decides that Frida is not fit to care for her daughter. She must be retrained and re-educated. I do really like books about motherhood. I find it really interesting. As somebody who may have kids one day, I feel like it's really interesting to look at just the commentary about what makes a good mother and who has the right to judge that. So I feel like this one will be a really interesting read, and it also has pink sprayed edges as well, which is kind of cool. The next one, which also has pink sprayed edges because I think it was part of this same, yes, Asda Tickled Pink campaign, and that is I Found You by Lisa Jewell. I love Lisa Jewell. The only book that I haven't liked from her so far is The Family Upstairs. Every other book I've loved. Do I even know what this one's about? I think I've just heard good reviews and I just trust her writing. So this is about a woman called Alice who finds a man on the beach outside her house. He has no name, no jacket, no idea what he's doing there. Against her better judgment, she invites him into her home. But who is he and how can she trust a man who has lost his memory? So very simple premise, but I think I've heard amazing things about this book. Oh, also look how big that text is. That's amazing. This one will feel like I'll be flying through it. So hopefully that will be another one that I love from Lisa Jewell. And then this one I bought from eBay, but this is actually a second-hand one. And this is A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne. I'm just so intrigued by this cover. I just love this cover. So this is a dark and twisted psychological drama, which is about a guy called Maurice Swift. He has a chance encounter with a celebrated novelist, which gives him an opportunity to ingratiate himself with someone more powerful than him. Once Maurice has made his name, he sets off in pursuit of other people's stories. He doesn't care where he finds them or who they belong to, as long as they help him rise to the top. And I can't wait to read about how he's going to clamber his way up to the top, and then we'll hopefully get to see his downfall as well. I feel like this one might be similar to the plot. I've not read the plot yet, but I feel like it's got that same kind of idea where we're following this unlikable protagonist who's benefited from other people's stories and then seeing what happens to them in the end. This is a hardback. I think I thought it was a paperback when I ordered it. A few left now. The next one is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. Again, I found this in Asda or Tesco for like £4.50. This one was already on my TBR anyway, and it is quite a pretty cover. It's got all these tiny little like flickering, you can't really see that, flickering lights on there. You can maybe see a bit better on the back. No. Oh, actually I didn't buy this one from Tesco. Oh, I was gonna buy it from Tesco. That's what it was. I was gonna buy it from Tesco for like £4, and then I found it in a charity shop for £2. So got it even cheaper. This is about a girl called Chloe Davis whose father is a serial killer. He was convicted and jailed when she was 12, but the bodies of the missing girls were never found. His crimes stalk her like a shadow. With her family torn apart by her father's crimes, Chloe moved away to rebuild her life. Then history repeats itself, and on the anniversary of her father's crimes, Chloe's worst fears come true. A girl she knows goes missing, and the nightmare has started again. So I'm guessing this is a case of either a copycat killer or that her dad wasn't really a serial killer and they'd got away with it for such a long time. I don't know, but either way, I've heard amazing things about this book. and this author has also got a new one that's just come out, which again I've heard amazing things for, and I've added that to my TBR. I'll put a picture of it up here because I can't remember what it's called. I've got so many good thrillers on my TBR and I just can't pick which ones to read, but this one has a little endorsement by Karen Slaughter, my babe, so this one will surely be high on my priority list. This one I definitely did get from Tesco, I think. This is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I really wanted to read this book when everyone was sort of talking about it when it came out, because I do like a space sci-fi story, but I tend to prefer them in games, like video games. Like, I loved Outer Worlds, that is such a good game, but I've never read anything like that, I don't think. So this is about an astronaut called Ryland Grace, who's a sole survivor on a desperate last chance mission. If he fails, humanity and the Earth itself will perish. So the stakes are very high, but right now he doesn't know that. All he knows is that he's been asleep for a very, very long time. He's just woken up to find himself hurtling through space millions of miles from home. He's then got to puzzle out an impossible scientific mystery, and he's got to do it all alone. Or does he? So I think I've heard that there's a really interesting friendship in this book. I don't know anything other than that, but I feel like this has really good reviews, and I do quite like this cover as well. And then if I like this one, I will go back and read The Martian. I've never seen the film or anything, but I'm excited to get stuck into a really clever sci-fi story, because yeah, I think I will really love that book. The next one I bought from Amazon or eBay, one of the two. Oh yeah, I think I bought it from Amazon because I needed to fulfill like a £15 delivery something or other. So this book is Sunset by Jessie Cave. This is a fiction story, I think about two sisters. Bonded by love and friendship, they are perplexingly different characters. Every summer they go on a budget holiday together, but this time is different. Something bad happens and now everything is changed forever. I'm scared to read this because I have a sister who is like my best friend. So I'm excited to see the sister relationship in this book because I do love a sister dynamic, but I'm also scared because I don't know what happens in this book and it's gonna probably crush me. But I just love the cover of this book, so I looked through my TBR to find one that I liked the cover of and picked this one. I know I'm very shallow when it comes to books, but I do feel like I like this one, especially since I've been loving contemporary recently. And then the last book that I have is another Asda special, and it is Tom Felton's new autobiography, Beyond the Wand. I couldn't not buy this book. I love Tom Felton, and when he came out with an autobiography I was so excited. So this is going to tell the story of him getting into Harry Potter and his time throughout the films. Oh yeah, and he was also in The Borrowers, I forgot about that. But he shares his experience of growing up on screen as part of the wizarding world, what filming was really like, the lasting friendships he made, as well as the highs and lows of fame and the reality of navigating adult life after filming finished. I think I managed to get this one for like £10, I think it was on a half price discount, so I'm really excited to read that one. I think I'm going to read Jeanette McCurdy's first and then I will read his. And that is all the books that I have to talk to you about today. I've bought a lot of books. To be fair, most of them have been fairly cheap. Hopefully I will have read more than 2. I think I've only read 2 out of the ones that I bought. But to be fair, I've been doing quite well reading my older books that I bought a long time ago and catching up on those first. So I think at the minute I've got about 40 odd books that I haven't read yet. But I'm hoping that by the end of this year that will be reduced by quite a lot. So thank you for watching this video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Let me know what books you've been reading recently or buying recently down below. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!